Welcome to This Explainer. We're diving straight into Robert Kiyosaki's wealth-building methods today. And honestly, we're going to completely shatter a money myth you've been fed since you were old enough to hold your very first piggy bank. We are going to look at the strategic power of debt. Yep, you heard me right, debt.
Okay, moving right into section 1, the great debt myth.
So did you know debt can actually make you rich? I know. It sounds totally counterintuitive. Most of us are conditioned to view borrowing as this monster hiding under the bed, right? A financial trap that's just going to keep you working until you're 90 years old. We're always told, pay off those credit cards, cut them up, and avoid borrowing at literally all costs. But what if that conventional wisdom is only half the story? We're going to explore how strategic borrowing isn't some desperate last resort. It's actually the secret weapon of the wealthy.
Which brings us to section 2, good debt versus bad debt.
Well, we really have to stop lumping all borrowing into one terrifying category. On one side, we've got good debt. This is the kind of borrowing that actually generates income for you. Think real estate investments or business loans. On the flip side, we have bad debt. This is the stuff that actively drains your wallet, like high-interest credit cards or consumer loans you use to buy a brand new car that magically drops in value the absolute second you drive it off the lot. This distinction is absolutely crucial. Good debt buys assets that put money in your pocket every single month, while bad debt, it just drains your wealth to buy liabilities.
So the real magic word we need to understand here is leverage. Leverage is simply using borrowed capital for an investment, fully expecting that the income it generates is going to be greater than the cost of the debt itself. Think about it like this. If you borrow money at a 5% interest rate to buy an asset that pays you 10%, you are literally profiting off money you didn't even own. You're using that borrowed money as a lever to lift a much heavier financial weight than you ever could with just your own personal savings. It completely transforms debt from a financial trap into a massive wealth-building tool.
Let's get into section 3, Kiyosaki's leverage strategy. So how do we take this abstract concept of leverage and actually use it? Well, this brings us to a foundational acronym in Kiyosaki's playbook, OPM, which stands for other people's money. He relies heavily on OPM to grab large, income-producing assets without draining his own bank account. I mean, the guy famously used a credit card cash advance to make the down payment on his very first real estate investment. By strategically using OPM, usually money from a bank or a private investor, you can secure an asset right now, instead of saving up for decades just to buy it in pure cash.
And here is the exact 3-step playbook. Step 1, you take a loan. You secure that capital using OPM. Step 2, you buy an asset. And this is critical, guys. You do not buy a liability. You buy something that cash flows, like real estate or a functional business. Step 3, you use the asset's income to pay off the debt. Notice how you aren't paying the loan from your own salary. The asset is literally paying for itself. The tenants in your building or the customers of your business are essentially paying down your debt for you while you get to keep the underlying asset. It's a brilliant cycle. Because you used other people's money, your personal cash-on-cash return is virtually infinite.
Moving on to section 4, applying leverage safely.
Okay, hold on. Before you rush out to borrow capital, it is absolutely vital that we set up some safety guardrails so you don't get burned. First, aggressively avoid bad debt traps. If you're drowning in high-interest consumer credit card debt right now, this strategy is not for you yet. Clear that out first. Second, start small. You don't go buy a massive apartment complex for your first investment. You start with a modest, manageable loan. Third, rigorously calculate your risks. You've got to know the math inside and out. Will the income definitely cover the cost of the debt? And finally, invest smartly. Only put money into things you truly understand. If you don't get real estate, do not borrow money to buy it until you've put in the time for proper financial education.
Finally, section 5, thinking like an investor. To actually apply all this knowledge, you need a huge foundational shift in your financial psychology. Let this sink in. Debt is a tool, not a burden. When you're stuck in a consumer mindset, debt feels like a heavy backpack you're dragging around, just because you wanted a nicer TV. But when you're actively pursuing financial education and start thinking like an investor, debt stops being a source of anxiety. It becomes a highly strategic tool. Think of it like a hammer. You can use it to build a beautiful house, or you can use it to completely smash a window. Debt can build immense wealth or absolutely destroy your finances. The only difference is the person holding the tool.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final provocative question to chew on. Have you ever used debt to actually grow your money? Take a hard look at your current financial setup. Ask yourself how you might safely apply these concepts to shift from a consumer mindset to an investor mindset in your own life. Start small, educate yourself, and maybe it's time to rethink everything you thought you knew about borrowing. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.
Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.